The often contentious decision on fluoridating water supplies is to be taken away from local councils. At the moment, local authorities decide whether or not to fluoridate water after taking advice from district health boards, DHBs. About half of the population currently drinks fluoridated water, but the government plans to bring in legislation this year which would transfer the decision to the DHBs in the first place. Health Minister Jonathan Coleman joins us now on the line from Wellington. Welcome, Minister. Nice to have you on the program.
Good evening, John.
Good evening. Why?
Well, basically, I want to see more fluoride in our water supply. Only 54% of the population are drinking fluoridated water. And we've got 40% of 5-year-olds experiencing tooth decay, 60% in Maori and PI children. 35,000 children under the age of 5 last year had a tooth pulled out because of decay. And all the evidence from the WHO shows that this is the single best measure to reverse tooth decay. The CDC in Atlanta rates water fluoridation as one of the 10 greatest public health achievements of the 20th century. So look, the TLAs, so local government, haven't been keen to continue making these decisions. They say they haven't got the expertise to do it, and I sympathise with that. So we looked at a range of options. From the status quo through to handing it to the DHBs, through to legislation making it compulsory. And it seems that it's going to fit best by handing these decision-making rights to the DHBs.
Okay, Minister, because I like the range, so let's discuss that. If the case is as compelling as you have just stated it, why didn't you legislate? Why are you deferring to the DHBs here? Why don't you have the courage of your convictions and say, hey, New Zealand, here's fluoridation?
Because I think we still need to have the local democratic input into the final decision. And after considering all these matters very carefully for a long time, handing it to the DHBs gets the right balance between, the democratic rights of the local population through their elected DHB members, as well as the imperative we have to get more fluoride into the water. And I think we've landed at the right place.
You weren't actually just copping out a little bit, were you?
What do you think?
Well, I don't know.
No, it's not a cop-out, John.
No, but wait a sec. If fluoridation is one of the major breakthroughs, is one of the 20 great breakthroughs, health breakthroughs of the 20th century.
Yeah, one of the top
10. And you believe that? You believe that there's a compelling case to be made for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then it's a no-brainer to put it in the water, isn't it?
Well, I think so, but the issue is it's been very contentious in many communities, and so our feeling is that it's still important that local communities get a say. And they get to elect their DHB.
But not too much of a say. This is the confusing thing. They had a say previously, didn't they? When local councils were in charge of it.
Yeah, but the local councils didn't have the expertise, and were very reluctant actually to continue having the responsibility. So the issue is, well, we want more fluoride in the water. What's the right balance between achieving that and also respecting the rights of local communities?
Was Whakatane and what happened there, where it went and then it came back, was at that stage you put your head in your hands and thought, right, there's got to be a plan B?
Oh, look, I've been keen to do this since I became Health Minister.
But was Whakatane the straw that broke the camel's back?
Oh, look, there have been a number of cases. South Taranaki, where, it ended up in the High Court. So not just Whakatane, there's been a number of decisions around the country. And look, when you look at that map and you see the very poor coverage nationally, you realise actually if we can make a difference here, we've got to get more fluoride into the water. And this is an great step forward. Welcomed by all the dentists in New Zealand, welcomed by local government. Everyone thinks it's a good idea.
Except for the people who oppose it. And if our email... No, look, I know the point you were making, I'm not being glib in response to you. Yeah. I'm just saying the people who oppose it really, really oppose it.
They really oppose it. Absolutely they do. But if you look at the weight of science, it is heavily in favour of fluoride in the water. It's the right thing to do, and I totally believe it is.
So would your advice be to the DHBs, go for it?
Yes.
That was a clear answer.
There you go.
It's a triumph, Minister. I'm delighted to hear a yes. Just before you go, I know that you don't want to discuss. I know you might relish the prospect of discussing it, but the hospital meals in Dunedin. So Compass had a meeting with the DHB today, clearly because all the meals that are being served aren't as good as the one you were served on that rather magnificent one-off occasion when you were down there. Are you happy with the food being served in Dunedin Hospital?
Yes, I am, but look, if there are individual complaints, they should be taken up with Compass and with the DHB management, but all I can say is there are nutrition standards around the food, and I went down there and I was served a meal that everyone else ate that day. I've also talked to people with contacts inside Dunedin Hospital who say that actually some of those photos of food is the pureed food that, as I said to you the other night, John, is fed to patients with their jaws wired shut. So, I think there probably has been a bit of mischief making in this debate. But look, I acknowledge that not everyone will be raving about the hospital food, but in the end, we've got to produce nutritious food that is attractive to the patients, and there are clear expectations on Compass and the DHB to do that.
Jonathan Coleman, Health Minister, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Jonathan Coleman, Health Minister, live on the phone.